they're dry. You see there's no marrow in the bone. You see they're scattered all over the valley. They ain't even full skeletons. I mean, the bones are scattered all over the valley. They're just bones. But answer me a question, Ezekiel. Can these bones live? Ezekiel answers the only way he knows how to answer. Lord, you know. Critical race theory was born out of critical legal theory. Am I teaching y'all something today? There emerged two common beliefs linking all critical race theories. First, white supremacy has subordinated black people and other people of color. That's just a fact. How in the world are you going to fight against that being taught in any school? White supremacy has subordinated black people and other people of color. That's a fact. Why don't you want that to be taught in school? You let your schools teach us that Columbus discovered America. That's a lie. You let your schools teach us that George Washington couldn't tell a lie. That's a lie. You let your schools teach us that some slave owners were beneficent and good slave owners. There were no good slave owners. Anybody who owned people was evil. That's a lie. You let your schools teach us that Abraham Lincoln was good for Negroes. No, Abraham Lincoln was trying to save the Union. And Abe Lincoln himself said if he could save the Union and keep black people in chains, he would do it. That's a lie. Come on, somebody. You let them teach us about a white Jesus. You let them teach us that Native Americans were the aggressors. Come on, somebody. That white folk had a manifest destiny and that the Pilgrims were good at Native Americans. That's a lie. All day, every day, you let them teach us lies. All throughout my history in school, I was taught lies. But you got a problem with critical race theory because it teaches the truth that white supremacy has subordinated black people and people of color. The right to bear arms. Let me just back up a little bit and let me take you on back to the late 1960s when Ronald Reagan was the governor of California. And they were oppressing black folk, and a group of men and women known as the Black Panther Party decided that they were going to defend the rights of black folk. And the Black Panthers decided that the Second Amendment wasn't just for white folk. So they strapped themselves with guns and showed up at the Capitol in California. And when they saw them Negroes with guns, come on, somebody. That's why I say if you ever really want to get gun laws changed, just strap all these Negroes up. They'll change them laws before the week is over. When the Black Panthers, watch this, I want you to read, the California legislator passed what was called the Mulford Act. It was a gun control act that decided who could get guns, who couldn't get guns, what could be in your background, what couldn't be in your background. It was the first time in history that the National Rifle Association, the NRA, supported restrictive gun legislation, all because black folk had the nerve to get strapped. Look at your neighbor and say, neighbor, go get strapped. Amen, somebody. Y'all gonna say Bishop told us to get strapped. I said it. Go get strapped. It just got real quiet up in here. But y'all already know I'm a triple P. Amen. Y'all know what a triple P is, right? A pistol packing preacher. Amen, somebody. upload a bar. Your work's not done just because you made it to the palace. Bless the name of the Lord. But you've got a responsibility to help somebody else make it across. Thank you, Jesus. Don't pull up the ladder because you climbed to the top. Don't blow up the bridge because you made your way across. Thank you, Jesus. But reach your hand back down the ladder and pull somebody else up out of loader bar. Thank you, Jesus. Thank you, Jesus. That's the name of the Lord. Somebody got to tell themselves it's all right if you got it now. Just hold it for me. I'll be there to get it after a while. Oh, bless the name of the Lord. Thank you, Jesus. You got to make up in your mind that what God has for me, it is for me. I might not have it right now. I may not get it next week because you might try to stop me from getting it. But if God said it's mine, I want you to know after a while, I'm going to get what belongs to me. 90.7 WTCC. The views and opinions expressed on this program are solely those of the participants and do not reflect the views and opinions of the staff or management of WTCC Radio. Welcome to the spoken word, where we'll be telling it like it is through cultural idioms and nuances that shape the order, ethos, and chaos of the African American experience. Words have their own vitality. They shape their own consciousness and create their own context for interpreting social and spiritual reality. The spoken word contains the power to reshape the landscape of society. 3 minutes past the hour of 9 a.m. I want to thank Mr. Kenneth Barnett for bringing us up into the 9 o'clock hour with The Promise. You can hear The Promise every Monday morning from 6 a.m. to 9 a.m., bringing you the best in gospel music. Good way to start out your Monday morning. Great way to start out your week. Welcomes to everybody who is with us on WTCC Radio here in the Pioneer Valley. Welcome all of you in Massachusetts, Connecticut, Vermont, whatever parts of the Pioneer Valley that you're chiming in from. Good to have you with us this morning, and to our global internet audience, wherever in the world you are, those on Facebook and YouTube and Instagrams and Twitch and wherever. It's always good to have you all with us. 413-337-1867 is the number to chime in. If you're in the Twitter space, you put in that request to get on the line. And always you can jump in the comments. I need you to like. I need you to share. I need you to subscribe. I need you to comment. All of that good stuff on today. Rep your city, rep your town. I need to know where you're chiming in from. Always like to know where my peoples is coming in from. So rep your city, rep your town. Don't be shamed. Don't be shamed where you're from, whatever hood you're from, whatever city, town you are in right now. Rep your city, rep your town. We'll do some shout outs to those of you that are wherever you are. Listen, today, a couple things I want to deal with. Locally here in Springfield, there was a consent decree that was announced last week by the Department of Justice with the Springfield Police Department. Hebron, Indiana. CC Sunny smiling too. Welcome. Um, and the police superintendent, commissioner, chief, whatever you want to call her these days, had the nerve to try to spin it. She tried to spin it into something positive. I'm gonna talk about that. Talk about the spin. Um, you don't get punished by the Department of Justice because you're doing a good job. So so we're gonna deal with this Cheryl Clapperud fiasco that's still walking the halls of the Springfield Police Department. Then I'm gonna deal with this universal anti-blackness. Anti-blackness is a universal language. I ain't talking racism, although it is a subset of racism. I want to talk specifically about anti-blackness. Anti-blackness is why a Congolese immigrant gets shot in the back of the head at point blank range by the Grand Rapids police, because he didn't care about nationality. He didn't care if he was African American or Jamaican or this or that. He just cared that he was black. And the sooner black people from across the diaspora understand that anti-blackness is the universal language, y'all will stop running around here talking about, I'm not black. I'm not black. Because that's what the world sees you as. 413-337-1867. Once again, rep your city, rep your town, do all of that kind of stuff. So we can acknowledge where you're coming in from. We're going to get you in here. Stay with us. We'll be right back. Hey, I'm with the bro. Circle so small that it's closed. And I'm still rolling on the road with riches. Still I got a long way to go for a finish. Hey, so I gotta handle business. Hey, what's some time I gotta kick it. Murder beats cause I'm trying to make a killing. Want beef in my city, they be grilling. Still making songs in the basement. I know I'm nice, but I can't keep complacent. I know my time coming, I gotta be patient. Forget the club, I got the backyard shaking. Hey, and I'm sipping cold, corona, no virus. For the ones gone, a moment of silence. With the gang, yo, we gon' get ignited. You can't get invited. Why? Haters ain't invited to the cookout. For the bad energy, we on the lookout. You gon' get right back what you put out. All that negativity is getting took out. It's a party. I ain't driving, I'm riding shoddy. I'm just vibing with everybody. Sip Bacardi, puff on the Harley. Let's get it started. Hey, don't kill my vibe. Good kid, Mad City, but I'm still alive. With the guys, so you know we fucking get it live. I be low and I be high, I be in the sky. Wanna know when I'ma stop, probably when I die. But I'ma live forever. Every day I take another breath, I'm getting better. With the fellas, just a vibe when we get together. Cause every day we on the grind, trying to kiss each other. We in the backyard, when you come around here, trying to act hard. I got people who I know will have my back, dog. I just gotta say the word like a flashcard. I didn't blow, but they treat me like a rap star. Cause they believe in me. The people that you see with me, they gon' eat with me. We back outside with it, it's a situation. If you ain't real, don't be waiting for no invitation. Why haters ain't invited to the cookout? For that bad energy, we on the lookout. You gon' get right back what you put out. All that negativity is getting took out. It's a party. I ain't driving, I'm riding shoddy. I'm just vibing with everybody. Sip Bacardi, puff on the party. Let's get it started. Ay.
I look in the mirror and I like what I see. A strong, beautiful black woman staring back at me. One who's seen a lot of pain and had her share of sorrow, but who never gave up hope for a brighter tomorrow. I've been lied to, cheated on, stolen from and hit, but it just made me stronger and I refuse to quit. That's right. And Though I've been tempted, I refuse to stoop to their level. Don't go down. I rose above that nonsense and made a liar of the devil. All right now. The devil who said I wasn't good enough, cute enough, or worthy of love, I kicked his butt with divine power from above. Power that says I can do all things through Christ, which strengthens me and brought me out of darkness so that I could see that I'm smart, I'm beautiful, I'm a child of the King. Abundant love for me, he came to bring. Oh yes, when I look in the mirror, I love what I see. That strong, beautiful black woman, that woman is me.
90.7 WTCC. Good morning to everybody who's out there in whatever different spaces that you are out there in, whether you're listening to us over WTCC here in the Pioneer Valley, whether you're in, the Twitter space or on Instagram or YouTube or wherever. Welcome. Once again, rep your city, rep your town. Let me know where you're chiming in from. Let me see if any of y'all rep or if y'all scared to rep. I saw Hebron, Indiana. I see Maryland in the house, Springdale, Maryland in the house, Mattapan, Massachusetts representing. Chicago is in the hizzy. Who else is up in here? Houston, Texas is in the house. Mississippi is up in here. Rep it, rep your city, rep your town. Canada is in the house. New York is in here. 413-337-1867. Somebody said around the corner. Okay, that's my daughter. She's repping from around the corner. And she literally lives around the corner from me. So welcome to each and every one of you. Aurora, Illinois is up in here. And my hometown folks never feel like they need to rep because they just assume that I know that Springfield, Massachusetts is in the house. And I know y'all are here, but you still need to be repping Toronto, Canada is up in here. Once again, if you're in the Twitter space, you put in your request and we'll get you on the air. And the rest of you can call us at 413-337-1867. Now, let me deal with the local stuff. Yes, Springfield, Mass. Thank you, Juanita. Thank you. Elder Mayfield, I see you here in the field. Welcome. So here in the field, well, I guess y'all calling in already. Let me get the caller on, then I'll deal with that. Good morning, caller.
Hey, good morning. I'm just checking in.
What's going on? This is my brother, the Reverend Dr. Haygood. How you feeling?
I'm all as well, my brother.
Good to hear.
Got the ears on this morning.
Gotcha. Thanks for listening, man. Appreciate you.
God bless.
All right. So here in the field, take a sip of tea. Green tea. That's probably my Monday routine. Anyway, the only police department investigated by Donald Trump's Department of Justice. Now, you got to understand the significance of this, because when Donald Trump came into office and Jeff Sessions became the Attorney General, they completely reprioritized what the DOJ was doing. Their own FBI director, Christopher Wray, said on multiple occasions and testified before Congress twice and said that the single most dangerous terrorist threat to America were white male supremacists. This is what a white man in the Trump administration said. Their FBI director said the single most dangerous terrorist threat to America were white males, white supremacists. But Jeff Sessions comes in and he reprioritizes the efforts of the DOJ. We don't want to investigate white supremacists, and we don't want to investigate white males, domestic terrorists who are running around shooting up malls and schools and all that stuff. We want to refocus based on our racism. So they created something called Black Identity Extremists. Basically a way that they could target Black Lives Matter and anybody who was an anti-racism activist. So kind of like COINTELPRO, the counterintelligence program of the FBI under J. Edgar Hoover, that targeted Martin Luther King and Malcolm X and the Black Panthers and, you know, all of those during the civil rights movement of the 50s and 60s. So the Trump administration created Black Identity Extremists so they could spy on people like me, you know, and others. And they took the focus completely off of white supremacists. You got to understand, and I'm setting this up because I want you to understand the significance of Springfield's police department being investigated by that Department of Justice. How bad do you have to be if a Trump Department of Justice that refocused its efforts not on anti-blackness, not on hate crimes against Black people and other non-white folks, not on police brutality and misconduct, and yet and still your department was so horrible it got investigated by the Trump administration. Think about that. Those of you who are tuning in from Springfield, think about that for a minute. The Springfield Police Department was so horrible. It was the only police department in these yet to be United States of America that got investigated by Trump's Department of Justice. And yet, Commissioner Clapperud, whose title has now changed to superintendent, had the unmitigated caucasity to say directly to me, we don't have a problem with racism or police brutality in our department. She put this in writing to me. The way I see it, the problem is these young Black males. This is what this decrepit, fossilized bigot had the nerve to say to me while they're being investigated by Trump's DOJ. Something's wrong when the Department of Justice under a racist administration investigates you for your racism. How racist do you have to be if the racists investigate you and say you're racist? That just made my head hurt. And so they investigated, and then they said that Springfield Police Department engages in a pattern of excessive brutality, particularly against Black people and non-white folks. A pattern. They had a pattern of brutality. They had a pattern of a lack of accountability.
all kinds of ways that they were violating the constitutional rights of the citizens of this city. And they made some recommendations. So Springfield ran and they hired Roderick Ireland, a black man who used to be the Chief Justice for the Massachusetts Supreme Judicial Court, because they wanted to put a good face on trying to pretend that they were working on mitigating the issues that were brought up by the Department of Justice in their report. And they were trying to avoid a consent decree, a legal agreement signed off by a judge that mandated that they do certain things to reform the department. They did not want to be under a federal mandate. They did not want to have to hire a monitor up to $1 million a year. They didn't want to do any of that. So they tried to put a good face on their efforts to reform. So they paid Roderick Ireland $6,000 a month and have some community Zoom meetings to pretend that they're reforming the department. So the Greater Springfield NAACP, shout out to all my NAACP peers. And the Pioneer Valley Project, shout out to Reverend David Lewis, the chair of the board, Tara Paris, the executive director, and to all the members of PVP. We push for a consent decree. Shout out to Tracy Whitfield and Justin Hurst, because we had help on the governmental side, with city councilors also understanding the need for reform and pushing for change. While the city was pushing back, they didn't want a consent decree, but we got a consent decree that was announced last week. I was invited by the Republican to write an op-ed on the significance of this consent decree, and so I'll be submitting that this week. You'll be able to read about it pretty soon. So it was the first settlement under the Biden administration. So the Springfield Police Department was the only one investigated under the Trump administration, and the first to have a consent decree slapped on them by the Biden administration. And the spin that Cheryl Clapper tried to put on this, she said, "I don't see this as a stain on the police department. I see this as a way to support our officers. It's just another way to support the Springfield." What the hell are you talking about, Cheryl Clapper? How in the hamburger are you going to be investigated by the Department of Justice, who determines that you violate the rights of the citizens of Springfield by systemically brutalizing Black people and other non-white folks, by lying on police reports, by not being accountable, to the point where they had to go before a federal judge and mandate certain remedies for your bad behavior and force you to hire a monitor at $1 million a year to make sure that you implement these changes. And you got to call Cassidy to say, this ain't a stain on the department. It's just another way to support us. Do you think we're stupid? I mean, really? That's just no humility no humility at all. No, this is a sad chapter, that has come to a close in the life of the Springfield Police Department, and we're going to work, tirelessly to try to mitigate these issues and deal with the bad cops that have made this a reality. None of that. No acknowledgement at all. Just, this ain't a stain. There ain't nothing wrong with us. Ain't no racism and brutality in our department. This is just another way for the feds to support us. And y'all wonder why I said to Mayor Sarno that Cheryl Clapperud needs to go. Matter of fact, let me just state for the record, I sat in his office when he made her acting commissioner. In front of her. See, because I don't mince words. I don't say one thing behind your back and a different thing to your face. I sat in the mayor's office. It was me, Brother Johnny Muhammad, Ed Pakula at that time, who was the city solicitor, Mayor Sarno, and Cheryl Clapperud. And I asked him, how are you going to assign a Brady cop as the acting commissioner? Brady cop, one of those who got busted lying on a police report. Good morning, caller. You're on the air.
Good morning, Bishop Swan. Man, did I get that right? So, like Donald Trump was like investigating the police department because they were down bad. You know, I was like, yo, that's terrible. You got like Donald Trump was doing this job, and they had to investigate them. They probably had to twist Donald Trump's arm to do that because like Donald Trump's like all the police are good and stuff.
Right, and I'm sure Donald Trump was less involved than those who were in charge at the DOJ.
His own people, a bunch of racist bigots. Stuff.
Absolutely.
And happy belated, like Easter, Bishop Swan, man. Hopefully you had a blessed day. I'm just letting you know I'm watching the show and I'm tuned in.
All right.
All right. Catch you later.
Appreciate you. So, this is crazy. This is crazy. So I sat in that office and I asked him how he would hire a Brady cop to be the acting commissioner, one who had been convicted of lying on a police report. And I asked him to do a nationwide search. That I asked him not to hire her as the permanent commissioner. This was at the beginning of her tenure. Okay? The beginning of her tenure. Having trouble on Instagram, hearing me. Sometimes that happens. And so at the beginning of her tenure, I asked, do not hire Cheryl Clapperud. And throughout her time as commissioner, I've asked, please fire Cheryl Clapperud. Please get rid of Cheryl Clapperud. Okay? We don't need her. We don't need her. She's terrible. And then when embarrassingly they get slapped with a consent decree, she stands up again and says, oh, ain't nothing wrong. We didn't do nothing wrong. This is just a way. This just a way to support us. It's just a way to support us. We ain't do nothing wrong. That woman is terrible. Her retirement can't come soon enough. And of course, you know, I get why Sarno didn't get rid of her, because, you know, you can't be perceived as succumbing to people like me, you know, to the white power structure. You know, if grassroots activists said get rid of her and he got rid of her, then he would be seen as weak because, you know, he kowtowed to people like Bishop Swan. And to the business folks and the other folks in the white community, that wouldn't be a good look. You know, I can't be seen as weak, and no, I can't do that. So we're just gonna grit our teeth and deal with this terrible person as commissioner. And he knows she's horrible. Trust me, he really does. He really does. So they were celebrating her 43rd anniversary as commissioner last week. And the Springfield Police Department put up a post. And I responded and said, it's time for her to retire. It's very interesting responses I got. Go check that post out on the Springfield Police Department's Facebook page. 413-337-1867. Let me get into this anti-blackness thing. Coming up at 10 o'clock in Justice and Flow, two guests that are going to talk about the Lift Every Voice lecture series. We're coming to a close on it for this year. Eaton Thomas is going to be my guest on tomorrow evening. It's going to be good. It's going to be great. Right there on the screen, those of you who are watching us, you can go and register. For those who are not watching, go to focusspringfield.com/LEV 2022. focusspringfield.com/LEV 2022 and register for tomorrow's event. Eaton Thomas is a former NBA star, activist, author. New York Times said about him, before there was Colin Kaepernick, there was Eaton Thomas, that tells you about his consciousness and activism. So he's my guest on tomorrow, and you need to be a part of that conversation. All right. Thank you, Jules Howard. Appreciate you. So let's talk about anti-blackness. See, people mix up anti-blackness and racism as one and the same, and anti-blackness is part of racism, but it's not one and the same. See, racism affects different races in different ways, but anti-blackness is the name for the specific kind of racial prejudice directed toward black people. All right. And I was having a conversation with someone last week who was giving me these acronyms, BIPOC, BIPOC, standing for Black, Indigenous, People of Color, you know, the POC, the various, and I said I don't like any of them, because what they're doing is they're carrying out the tendency to lump all so-called ethnic minorities together. And they do that for ease, or just out of laziness and ignorance, as if all of our experiences are the same. And they're not the same. They use the acronym BAME, BAME, Black, Asian, Minority, Ethnic. You know, a lot of y'all use POC, People of Color. And they can be useful in some situations, but they should not be used in reference to a specific race unnecessarily. Don't refer to a black woman as a woman of color. She's black. Don't refer to a black man as a person of color. He's black. Because when you do that, you undermine their specific lived experience of being black. And see, the term racism is everywhere, you know, and it's used to explain all of the things that cause non-white folks suffering and death. Inadequate access to health care, to food, to housing, to jobs, to police brutality. Racism fails to fully capture what black people in this nation are facing. The right term is anti-blackness. Somebody ought to put that in the comment section. Anti-blackness is the right term. All right, I'll put it in the comment section myself, because you need to start using this term. It is more specific to our experience. Let's be clear now, racism is not a meaningless term, but it's kind of a catch-all that encapsulates anything from black people being denied fair access to mortgage loans, to Asian students being burdened with this model minority um, um, moniker. It's just not specific. You know, Latinos being discriminated against. Racism is like a catch-all kind of thing. Um, but anti-blackness is something completely different. Uh, it's the way we articulate what it means to be marked as black in an anti-black world. And get it, my friends, anti-blackness is a universal language. It is not just for America. It is global. Let me get Camille Lawson in the Twitter space. Camille, you're in the Twitter space. Unmute your mic, Camille. You there? Hi, Camille.
Hey, Bishop.
How you doing?
I'm understanding what you're saying about the black, how we define each other. But don't you think that when we start like adding different, well, no, I'm not all black, I'm this or I'm that it still starts to sow a division just within ourselves.
Yeah. And I mean, and we see it all the time. Where you have black folk who want to dilute their blackness. Well, I'm part black, but I got some Choctaw Indian, and I got some this, and I got some that. And then you have those across the diaspora. You have our Caribbean brothers and sisters, our brothers and sisters from Trinidad and Tobago, and from Jamaica and Grenada, and different parts who tell you I'm not black. And you have those from across the continent of Africa, from various countries there, that will be quick to tell you they're not black because they want to separate themselves from black people in America.
Black, I'm Nigerian.
Right. And they don't understand.
I'm not black. I'm this.
Yeah.
But the thing is that even though I refer to myself as Afro-Latino, I'm just still, that's something that I did for my parents because they wanted to be acknowledged by both.
Mm-hmm.
So I have to do that. But I feel that anytime that we start just really going in and start separating just blackness.
But see, you're right. See, you can term yourself in other ways because you can acknowledge your nationality. Because Nigerian is a nationality, not an ethnicity. You can be proud of your nationality. You can call yourself Nigerian or wherever you're from. You call yourself Afro-Latino as long as you don't dismiss your blackness.
You're black, absolutely.
Yeah.
Because they have, let them tell it. You only need a drop of it.
That's it. That's the one drop of blood rule. If you got anybody black, we're gonna treat you as black.
You only need a drop.
And see that. There you go. And that's what I try to get people to understand, that when the police go upside your head, and I use this recent case in Grand Rapids, Michigan.
Dear God. I went to University of Michigan and I'm just so devastated about this.
I'm on my way there. I'm speaking at their Juneteenth celebration in June. But this Congolese immigrant shot point blank in the back of the head.
Why are you on his back?
Right.
So you just put the handcuffs on him.
Mm-hmm.
And say, let's not forget the fact that you got his car, you have another person in the car. There's nowhere I cannot find you. I have your car.
Right. But that man didn't care.
On your back, you don't have a weapon.
Mm-hmm.
And I decided to shoot you execution style.
Absolutely. And he did it because he was black. He didn't care what nation he was from. He didn't care about any of that.
He truly didn't care, especially if you're not just an American black. He didn't care because you ain't even black and you here.
Right. Absolutely. Appreciate you, Camille.
You welcome. You too.
413-337-1860. If you're in the Twitter space, get your requests popping. Let me get Jonathan up in here in the Twitter space, or Jonathan. I think it's Jonathan I got up in here. Jonathan, you in here? All right, let me get Jara Clark. Let me get Jara up in here. I thought I had Jonathan Whitfield in here, but let me get Jara Clark in here. Jara, unmute your mic. You're in the Twitter space.
Thank you so much for having me.
Thanks for being here.
All right. Yes, I did want to say I like the point you were making, and it is true that anti-blackness is global.
Yes.
It's a problem around the world. It's a local thing. There's a really good documentary that came out. And some people are actually dismissing it now and trying to put it in the category as entertainment, but it's actually I think it received an award, maybe a German award. I think it received. It's called "Exterminate All the Brutes." I don't know if anyone's heard of it. It's on HBO. What's the director's name? I'm trying to remember. There's a Haitian gentleman. But anyway, get to the point. What I was trying to say was, that documentary actually covers the full extent prior to the transatlantic slave trade, and how that has shaped racism in the world, and the anti-blackness in the world, how it has shaped this ideology of white supremacy and this imaginary concept of black inferiority. And so, and we're still dealing with the remnants of that ideology today, that horrible, horrific idea of race today. There's a lot of inventions that are falsely taken credit for, but the one invention I don't see people rushing to take credit for is the invention of this concept of race, which is referred to the word appear in the English language in the late 1400s.
I often say that white folks have stolen patents and stolen inventions from since the annals of time began. But the one invention that they deserve all the credit for, that they refuse to take credit for, is racism.
Yeah, right. And I kind of find it funny. We see evidence of language, mathematics, earliest mathematics predating BC, and we see earliest metallurgy. All types of inventions and great things that have advanced the human race, but we don't see the credit being given to that. We hear names like Galileo instead of the African tribes that mapped the star system. We see names like Benjamin Franklin instead of we had to do electricity. I believe the light bulb was to some extent electricity, but we don't hear anything about the Baghdad battery, which is some kind of battery fuel cell that was created. This is in ancient times. And so, anyway, I don't want to babble on about those kind of things, but basically, in a nutshell, it is a global problem. It has to do with the history of the world and the history of racism. And I think that when people don't identify or don't or try to run away from their identity, I think it has to do with how people are socialized, and even black people themselves, some black people themselves have been internalized white supremacy ideology and kind of run away from this concept or accepting who they are, and that's problematic.
Absolutely. Appreciate your take, brother.
Thank you.
413-337-1867 if you want to chime in by telephone. If you're in the Twitter space, just put in that request and we will get you on the air. We're talking anti-blackness being a universal language. Something that black folks all across the diaspora have to deal with. Not just here in these yet to be United States of America, but across the diaspora. And some of those who are chiming in on the conversation are hitting the nail right on the head. The concept of anti-blackness pushes back against the idea that all so-called ethnic minorities have the same lived experience and can be shoved under one singular umbrella. We can't. And I'm not diminishing anyone else's lived experience. All I'm saying is don't dilute mine. Don't dilute the lived experience of my ancestors, by trying to lump it in. They don't do that with white folks. When do they lump in the experience of the Irish with the experience of the Italians or of the Polish or of the Germans? They don't. They want to own their own individual lived experience, but they want to deny black folks theirs. We can't allow that to happen. Anti-blackness describes the inability to recognize black humanity. It's why so this war in Ukraine, the response that you see across America, pray for Ukraine, pray for Ukraine, pray for Ukraine. $14 billion allocated to take in 100,000 Ukrainian refugees, even though the Peace Corps said, now black volunteers, you got to watch out because the Ukrainian refugees are going to call you monkeys. They're going to call you niggers. They're going to call you all kinds of pejorative racist terms, and you might be in physical danger because they may physically attack you because of their anti-blackness. This is the Peace Corps giving this warning to its black volunteers. But America is going to take in 100,000 Ukrainian refugees who are running from a fight with white folks in Europe and coming to America to start a fight with black people. Think about that for a minute. That's how deep anti-blackness goes. And the same America that will spend $14 billion to import anti-blackness into America turned a blind eye to 1 million Nigerians being slaughtered, to 1 million Rwandans being slaughtered. Y'all weren't, you didn't see pray for Rwanda. You didn't see pray for Nigeria. You didn't see the American government spending billions, tens of billions of dollars saying that we are going to resettle Rwandans and Nigerians because of the atrocities that are happening in their country. At the same time that Biden set aside $6.5 billion to resettle Afghan refugees and $14 billion to resettle Ukrainian refugees. He spent millions of dollars to deport Haitian refugees. Think about that. While he was announcing the resettlement of 100,000 Ukrainians, they were also announcing concerted efforts to deport Colombians. What's wrong with that picture? Think about it. And I know y'all didn't like Trump. I didn't like him either. But y'all can't act like racism doesn't exist simply because it comes from a Democrat. Racism is racism no matter where it comes from. Well, Bishop, I'd rather have I'd rather have racism from this white boy than racism from that white boy. I'd rather not have it from any white boy. What do I mean? Okay, let me help you. Trump deported 6,700 Haitians in 4 years. I want y'all to get this. He deported 6,700 Haitians in 4 years. Biden has deported 30,000 Haitians in his first year. Yeah. Biden has deported more Haitians in 1 year than the last 4 presidents combined. Obama deported 6,500 Haitians in 8 years. His boy, Biden, deported 30,000 in his first year. So while you were deporting 30,000 Haitians and sending them back to a war-torn, ravaged land, you're saying, let's spend, you making it rain with $14 billion to support resettling white Eastern Europeans. That sounds like racist foreign policy to me. That sounds like anti-blackness to me. And I don't give a hamburger if he's nominated the first black vice president, or if he nominated the first black woman to the Supreme Court. It's easy to do that kind of stuff, to prop up one black person. But I'm going to deport 30,000 black Haitians and welcome in 100,000 white Eastern Europeans. That's anti-blackness, y'all. And Ketanji Brown Jackson and Kamala Harris don't overshadow that. They don't erase that. They don't cancel that out. They don't cancel out that anti-blackness from the Biden administration. As much as y'all don't want to talk about it, y'all don't want to deal with it, they don't cancel it out. Y'all can electric slide all you want about the elevation of 2 black women, but you electric sliding and ignoring the oppression of tens of thousands of black people by this administration. Because anti-blackness, again, describes the inability to recognize black humanity. It captures the reality that the kinds of violence that saturate black life is not based on any specific thing a black person has done. The violence, the inhumanity, the indignities we experience isn't tied to any particular transgression. It's gratuitous and unrelenting, and it is tied to this. It's tied to our blackness and our blackness alone. It covers the fact that society's hatred of blackness and its gratuitous violence against black people is also complicated by its need for our existence, because they need us in order for them to survive. The abject inhumanity of black folk reinforces their whiteness. It reinforces their humanness. It reinforces to them their perceived superiority. All day long. I know I'm spitting facts. Let me get Yusuf in here. He'll be the last one for, right. Well, let me get this call in first. We'll have to bleed over into Justice and Flow. Good morning, caller. You're on the air.
Yeah, good morning, Bishop Swan.
Yes.
What I wanted to say is anti-blackness because even the people that they pick in power that are black, they always have either a white counterpart that they marry to, either it's a woman or you just men. Thank you.
All right. Well, there definitely have to be an acceptable black person. You know. Let me get Ross from the DMV. Roslyn. Let me get Roslyn up. Roslyn jumped out, so I can't get Roslyn then. Let me get Yusuf in here. Yusuf, you're in the Twitter space. Good morning. Yusuf, you're in the Twitter space. Good morning, sir.
Morning. I was just listening to your. I just got in a few minutes ago. I'm from Australia, and I just wanted to say that a lot of the things that you've been saying is correct, and you know, I'm not a black person. I don't know what it's like to be treated indifferently based on my skin color, but in my own experience being Middle Eastern, you know, I've also experienced being mistreated. Not saying that is the same as, you know, being a black person, but I definitely think that most people that are from different backgrounds hide behind their whiteness, if that makes sense.
That makes sense.
So even though that I am Middle Eastern, but you can't see that in me because I'm white, if that makes sense.
Absolutely.
If you're black or African descent, you can't hide that, if that makes sense, because it's there. You can't be mistaken for not being black, if that makes sense.
Right. Absolutely. Absolutely correct.
Yeah.
And that's part of the reason why I say, you know, we can't mix and mingle and lump everything together. You know, people often try to mix in the LGBTQ community with blackness. Not the same. You know, if you're walking down the street, nobody has to know your sexuality. Nobody knows unless you reveal it to them. I can't hide my blackness. I can't walk down the street and not have people know that I'm black. I mean, that's the reality of it. You know, it's that trait that we don't want to get around, but we can't get around it because it's in your face. All right, those who are listening on WTCC, we're going to keep flowing into Justice and Flow Hour on social media. So please feel free to jump on Twitter. Feel free to jump on YouTube or Instagram or any of our social media sites. I've got some requests popping in on the Twitter space. I'm going to get you guys in here as soon as I sign off for WTCC. But for those on WTCC, once again, you need to register for the Lift Every Voice lecture series. Go to focusspringfield.com/LEV 2022. It's popping tomorrow evening, 7:00 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. Eaton Thomas, former NBA star and author of a book of which I was a part of, which he interviewed me for, Police Brutality and White Supremacy. We're going to be discussing in that book on tomorrow. We've got some other talent. We've got Vanessa Ford singing. We've got Crystal Center Brown doing spoken word. We've got dance by Youthful Expressions. So you don't want to miss the Lift Every Voice lecture series on tomorrow. All right. So until the next time I talk to you and you talk to me, always remember God loves you, and so do I. Those of you that are on social media, we'll see you in just a minute. Welcome, Justice and Flow Hour. In the hizzy, it's the justice without the flow. First Lady won't be with us. She's taking baby boy to his doctor's appointment. But she's lined up some special guests for us, and we're talking about the Lift Every Voice lecture series, the history of it, and what's happening, what has happened this year, and what's happening tomorrow night. Let me try to get some of you who were trying to get in. Curvy. Come on, pop through on the Twitter space. Curvy, you're in the house. Going once. Going twice. All right, let me get Ross from the DMV. Ross, you're in the house. I want to try to get you all in here. All right, Ross or Curvy, come on through. 413.
How you doing, Bishop Talbert Swan? How are you doing today, sir?
I'm good. How are you?
I'm wonderful. I apologize. I had something glitching on my system when you had me about to come up before. I couldn't even hear you.
That's all
but
right.
I wanted to just let you know that it's very, I mean, I know you're D9 like me. And
right.
also,
You're
the president of the NAACP in your area, and congratulations. But I'm a member of the NAACP also in my area.
Okay.
And I just don't really hear us talking like this enough. And I just want to commend you, sir, on that. And also to find out if you can follow me, because that's something I'm interested in doing, having a conversation on a different kind of Twitter space. But if you would follow me and you would see the kind of work we're putting in, I just wanted to commend you and just ask you to follow me on Twitter space so we can have future discussions like this, sir.
All right, just did. Now, which D9 organization are you part of?
DST. What else is there for me?
I got you. Ooh.
Thank you, sir. Yes, sir.
All right. God bless. Take care.
All right. God bless you. Peace and respiration.
All right. Let's see. Did I get Curvy model? You in here, Curvy? Is that you? Good morning. All right, I thought I had her. Unmute your mic. I thought I had you.
Oh, Curvy. I thought you were saying something. Someone else said.
Yeah, that's in your name, right? It says Curvy model win, right?
Right, I thought you said Kirby, like the vacuum cleaner.
Oh,
I get here.
I got you. How you doing, sis?
I'm all right. I'm doing what most women are doing in the morning, multitasking.
Okay.
Doing several different things at once, working at home. But the anti-blackness thing and the internet, to be completely honest, the internet is helpful because, especially in the early days, nobody knew who you were. Right. You sounded good, you talking good, people liked you. You sounding bad, you talking bad, people didn't like you. You know what I'm saying?
Right.
But when people start to know, they get to make decisions based on that knowledge. If they want to support the black race through you, they will. If they don't, they won't. And that's the way lots of people spend their money and their time. They might accept you, but they really are anti-black. Because of whatever happened to them in their life. It could be because black people were always mean to them. Okay, well, I live around all black people. Okay? Everything is black in Gary, Indiana. And it is historically black. The first black mayor in the world, well, in America, was right here. Okay? This is the seat of the Black Power movement. Blacker, blackity, blackness. I got African American history every day from my African American teachers in school. We did not have to have a special course. They walked the walk. They were on the picket line. They have the evidence and the receipts.
Gotcha.
The mental and emotional scars, the political scars, from standing up for themselves and having their voice heard following Dr. Martin Luther King. Those were beatings that you can't see the marks from with your eyeballs, but your walker can.
There you
when
go.
People shun you economically, okay? And then you have to depend on your own people, and they have to decide. A lot of them choose to go with whatever they want to go with. They want to be free. They want to be in an open market. That's great. But it's a lot of people that gave up a lot of stuff to get Black people to where they are. The anti-Blackness got to start from within.
Yeah.
Like it used to be in the 70s. Black is beautiful. I came up under that. I know for a fact that the school lunch program came from the Black
Panthers all day long.
And after it was really good, the government took it.
Yeah.
They still do that. If you got a plan and you're working it and it can work for everybody, they'll buy it.
Yeah.
Now, how they went from making lunch programs to being bank robbers and drugs and all that, I don't know, because I was little. All I know is that I don't do it. I take the original version of the power that is put in Black people with our crown. My hair stands up. It don't lay down. I can put water on it. It lay down for a minute. When that water dry up, my hair stand up like a halo.
There you go.
Not a crown. A crown sit on your head. My hair stand up like a black halo. What am I supposed to do about that?
Yeah.
I put some perm on it.
Well, let me say this. Let me say this. This is what one preacher said. He said, y'all ought to stop calling it, for Black women, you ought to stop, Africa so strong. Y'all have to stop calling it a permanent, because by the time Africa eats through that perm, and your hair goes back to its natural state, y'all, instead of calling it a permanent, you ought to call it a temporary.
It should be a temporary, because as your hair grows, it go right back to standing up. Part on top will be laying back, and the part underneath will be standing up.
Absolutely.
Wanting to be seen, wanting to be different than every other person if you are working. A lot of Black people choose not to participate in the larger society, just like a lot of white people choose not to blend. And we should be able to be comfortable with that. You know where to take certain friends and where not to take certain people. Maybe they don't want to be at the gala where you need a ball gown, because she don't want to have it fit all the way up to the waist. No, just a regular ball gown, girl. Make sure to cover your ankles. Okay, everybody knows that we are not the same. We have different personalities, different cultural ties. Some people are from the island. I am a descendant of slaves. Sharecroppers is what they call them. Everybody else calls them farmers. Okay, they had land and everything. So I have a different experience than somebody from the island. Okay, that's just the way it is. But that doesn't mean that we can't do business together. I make soap. It's not a lot of, right now there are more Black women, vaccinated soap and things of that nature. But it's a hobby. But it's something that was necessary back in the day. I have hobbies.
Yeah.
I'm around a lot of people, and I'm just being honest. They don't have any real hobbies. Yeah. They stay inebriated all the time. And that's fine if you still can do what you're supposed to be doing. But many people are functioning.
Yeah, absolutely. Listen, sis, I gotta move.
Anti-Blackness is internal.
It's internal, it's external, and it's universal. I definitely appreciate your time. Thank you so very much. I still got some of y'all popping in the Twitter space, but I need to bring on my guest for Justice and Flow. I know First Lady is on her way to taking our youngest son to his doctor's appointment, and so I don't know if she's going to be able to chime in any way, call in or something or other. We'll see. I know we have Ayanna Crawford, who is part of the Lift Every Voice lecture series planning team. I'm waiting for her to get her camera popping, so we can bring her into this conversation. But the Lift Every Voice lecture series This is the 12th year, y'all. This is, and let me just give you a little bit of background of how this all started. Um, Back in the 90s, we used to partner. There were a number of us who would partner together to make sure in our little medium-sized town in New England that we would always have something significant happening during Black History Month. So myself, Minister Yusuf Muhammad, Reverend Brett Snowden, Reverend Apostle Brown, others, we made sure that happened, whether it was book fairs or bringing in speakers, whatever it was, we made sure it was happening. In the 2000s, there seemed to be a lull in that happening. And so I was looking at the calendars back in 2011, and I said, there's absolutely little to nothing going on for Black History Month. I said, I got to do something, to just bring awareness to our issues, to celebrate our culture and our history. And so I decided to do a lecture series, one every week in February for Black History Month. So I bring in every Tuesday a speaker. I reached out to Helen Carlton Harris over the Department of Health and Human Services. I reached out to Steve Bradley from Bay State Health, and others said, hey, listen, I need you guys to help me with this. I need you to sponsor this. And Bay State sponsored the entire first lecture series, and they've been sponsoring us for 12 years. And we have brought in some world-renowned individuals and also been able to highlight local Black talent right here in our area. And we'll tell you some of the speakers and persons that we have had over the years. In the last 2 years, we did it a little differently because of the pandemic. Instead of having an in-person lecturer each week during Black History Month, we spread it out over 3 months, and we've done virtual. For the first time this year, back in February, we brought Ida Rodriguez here to the city. That was the first in-person that we've done since the pandemic. And prayerfully, next year we'll be able to do in-person again. But I've got a great planning team that helps with this effort. And tomorrow is our last lecture of this season. Eaton Thomas, former NBA star, activist, author, brand new book out, Police Brutality and White Supremacy. He interviewed a number of persons, myself, Chuck D, so many others for that book. And we're going to be discussing that on tomorrow. So let me bring on Ayanna Crawford, who is one of the folks that we've got on our planning team for the Lift Every Voice lecture series. Good morning. I don't have sound for you. Let's see.
Okay, can you hear me now?
I can. Good morning.
Good morning, Bishop, and good morning to all the listeners. Super excited to be here on Justice and Flow.
Justice without the flow today.
I see. Well, we miss her. Hopefully she'll tune in or jump on. We know First Lady is always on point and always doing something for the community. So, and so we thank her so much for all she does.
Absolutely. And I understand. Is Waleska coming on?
I don't believe she's going to be able to make it, so it might just be me.
Okay. All right. So you've been a part of LEV now for a number of years. First as a guest host, and then as part of the planning team. And I know that every year, as I'm planning, you always call me to make sure you're going to be a part of the lecture series this time. So obviously, it has become an important part of your agenda during Black History Month, or just part of the cultural identity of our community. So tell us a little bit about what LEV means to you in your history book.
Absolutely. And I kind of heard a little bit about how you sort of encapsulated how it sort of came about as well. And so for me, I too, like you, wondered, what are we doing for Black history? What's happening? What's going on? And so, what you put together in terms of the lecture series for me was so critically important because there's so many complicated issues around the country as it relates to Black folks. And a lot of times we don't get to hear that right on the local level. And so when you brought, these national figures, these national folks that are talking about what's happening to Black people all over the world, intrigued me, because we need to have that. And especially my children, as a young mother, as a single mother, we need to know what's happening in our world. And so I said I wanted to stay plugged in. I wanted to stay tuned in. I wanted to stay sort of on the cutting edge of what's happening in our world. And so I look forward to it every year, whether I'm a host, whether I'm part of the planning committee, whether I'm sharing a post, whatever it is. But I know that you have those national connections, Bishop. You have sort of the doors that are open to you to bring about these wonderful, amazing speakers that, really sort of speak to, again, what is happening to Black folks around the world. And so I just want to make sure that I'm in tune, my children are in tune, my family, my community is a part of it. So that's why I stay, on you and say, okay, what are we doing this year? Because I know you got a lot of connections. And and I want to say this as a preface, we tend to, lack the celebratory piece when we look at local folks. Yes, Bishop is a local bishop. He does local stuff, but he's also on a national stage that I don't even know the breadth of the multitude, Bishop, of the people that other than seeing the interactions that I see on Twitter, on Instagram, on all the different platforms of the people that interact with you as if you're like, you all are best friends. And I'm like, wait a minute, that's Bishop from Springfield, Massachusetts. How he know so-and-so? How he know this person? How he know that person? I'm like, wait a minute, so to me, that means that you have made those connections already. And so people need to recognize, and we need to attend these lecture series, because this is not, a walk in the park. These are folks that, have in their own right, done a lot of work as well in terms of our condition of Black folks, and being on national platforms and what have you. So I'm just elated and excited to be humbled enough to be a part of this planning team with all the wonderful planning members, Waleska, of course, Lady Swan, and so many others that have been a part of making this happen with you, and of course all the sponsors. All the contributors that really saw the vision that you were bringing to the city of Springfield.
Yeah, I've been fortunate to be able to be in some circles that have brought me into fellowship with some wonderful people, and some folks who are doing outstanding things, across various spheres of endeavor. Authors, entertainers, sports figures. I got a call from Mike Daniels and some others from the NFL about wanting to become more involved, in some community-based efforts, that would push the envelope for justice for Black folks. And it's been a wonderful experience to be able to interact with these individuals. And you know I think sometimes in our little New England town, we sell ourselves short. uh, People often think that in order for me to make these types of connections, I have to move to Atlanta or to Los Angeles or to wherever. But we now live in a global world where you can make an impact. You can make a national, even international impact from whatever little corner of the world that you live in. And I'm just glad to be able to represent the 413, um, and to be able to bring some of these excellent people to interact with our people. And you'd be surprised at how down to earth many of these individuals are. Sometimes we see people up on a certain stage and we think they're bothered in life. No, they wouldn't be bothered with us. What is Springfield? But people want to get their message across. They want to share with people, and we've been blessed to be able to bring some great folks. But even above and beyond the stature of the persons that we've been able to bring here, the thing for me that is probably the most rewarding is to have been able to highlight the talents of those in our own community.
Right.
Those who people don't, may not know, may not get to see that often, and just to be able to highlight them and then to recognize through our awards, recognize unsung heroes, people who are doing great things quietly and behind the scenes, and we're able to highlight that and say, hey, y'all, this is what's happening in our community, and these are the people that are making it happen. So talk a little bit about the talent, the untapped talent we have, and also those that we're recognizing who are doing big things in our community.
Absolutely. We have a really a beautiful list of folks that, have either been a poet, a dancer, a songstress, and really, like you said, brought their talents to each of every night of the lecture series. And so we've tapped into the local dance schools, again, local poets through our community. And like you said, just shining a bright light on those that might not have gotten a spotlight to perform, either in public or virtually. And so we do that because we recognize that it's not about us, it's about the community. And so we need to be able to recognize we have multiple people within our community that have multiple talents. And so what better way than for us to showcase that and is in front of our community. So I'm always taken aback by our young people, our dancers, having the moment like, Dream Studios and, Youth Expressions to come to these, events and really showcase our young people and their talents. And of course, all of the poets locally, like Daryl Moss and, Lynette Johnson and Crystal Center Brown, and just so many of them that are here. And so, those are those folks that, again, might not, get the platforms that they really need and deserve. And of course, Vanessa Ford, who is just, certainly, one of our greatest gifts in our city. And I say that, very humbly because she's a very humble sister. I've known her since high school. We went to high school together, and just to see how she's progressed and grown in her ministry, and being able to, be a recording artist and continue to be grounded in the Lord. And so that's certainly important. But she's always front and center, making sure that her voice is a part of the lecture series, whether it's recorded or whether she's in person. It's such a blessing to bring forward her gift that God has given her. And then in terms of the unsung heroes, recognizing, as you have, Bishop, for the last, 12 years, folks that, are behind the scenes, that are doing the work and not looking for recognition, not looking for someone to say, you know what, you're doing a great job. No, they're going to continue to do a great job do the work that's necessary to push our community forward, whether they get recognized or whether they don't. And we see that each and every day. And so we've had a wonderful list of men and women that have gone, I think, almost unnoticed at times of the work that they do. And so when we bring a shining light and showcase them, to the community, we're just saying, you know what? Job well done. We see you. We appreciate you. We know you're working hard, and we want the community to also know that you're working hard. And so that's, certainly why we're doing that. And we do this season. We had Helen Colton Harris for an Unsung Hero Award for all the work she's done during the pandemic, of course, and the work she does with the health department and her community work as well. And so we're just humbled by their accepting of the award, because people that do the work are not necessarily looking for, like I said before, those recognitions. And so sometimes it humbles them to say, you know what, I'll accept it, but because you've said you've recognizing me, or you're recognizing me. And I know for Helen, we surprised her. It was a great surprise. We went to the health department, and we brought, Channel 22 and Bishop and Lady Swan and Waleska. We all were there, and she was taken aback. She had no idea that we were even thinking about this or doing this. Her staff was so gracious enough to not inform her. And so we were able to honor her at her business, and then of course at the virtual lecture series. So that's what the vision is, and I'm just excited to be a part of this group of folks that are doing this. And thank you, Bishop, for your vision for continuing it. And I know that each year you say, you know what, are we doing it this year? And that's why I got to push you and say, yes, we're doing it, and you got a team now, and we're going to make it happen. So we're not going to leave you.
Sometimes when people see efforts like this, they really don't realize the amount of effort and time it takes to plan and to raise the money, to connect and bring in the speakers and do all of that. And so it was, after my 9th year, I said, I think this is going to be the last year. Then I said, okay, well, I got to at least do the 10th. I said, I'm going to do the 10th, and that's going to be it. So after I did the 10th, then we were in the pandemic. I'm like, this is the perfect excuse to not do it. And it was really Anna Marie Golden from Bay State who encouraged me to plan the virtual event and to keep plugging. And so I said, well, you know what? As long as y'all are going to keep supporting it, I guess I'll keep doing it. And they've been champs in terms of doing it. And I got to give a shout out, to Anna Marie. Started with Steve Bradley, but she's been wonderfully supportive, in terms of Bay State. I got to give a shout out to John Davis from the Davis Foundation. They have supported us for so many years. Those two organizations have really, really been in our corner, come hell or high water. And so you got to acknowledge those who help make it happen. And just the community, I look back to those. I was looking through some pictures the other day, and looking back to those individuals who would come every week, and then I would have some folks in the community who were more relentless than you were, who would be calling me. They weren't hosting or doing anything. They just want to know who's coming this year, who's coming, what day is it, and they wanted to know, who was coming and when it was going to be and all of that. Let me, I want to share, and this is not a complete exhaustive list, but it kind of gives you an idea some of the folks. 2011 was our first year, and so we did mainly local speakers. We had a very limited budget, but we had some dynamic speakers. Dr. Gracie, who was one of my professors at UMass. But what people don't know is the level of scholarship, and on various topics. He's taught African American history, for so long, and so and then not only that, he's a regular at coming by our church. He'll bring his classes, to experience the Black church experience, and so he'll bring a class of people who he had a class of Chinese folks.
Oh wow!
He wanted to have the Black church experience, and so he brought him to Spring of Hope. He's done that several times, but he was the first speaker ever in the Secretary. Dr. Keith Motley, at the time he came to us, he was the chancellor of the University of Massachusetts in Boston. He's also a frat brother. He's an Iota. He is now the president and CEO of the Urban League in Boston.
Right. Okay.
He was one of our speakers, and Dr. Kunjufu. What can you say about him? He's been to us several times.
Yes.
He's a lecturer and author and activist. I was first captivated by Dr. Kunjufu as an author when he wrote the series of books, The Conspiracy to Destroy Black Boys. And you all have to look up Dr. Kunjufu's books if you haven't already. The first time I heard him speak, I was at a national conclave for Iota Phi Theta in Chicago, and he was the keynote speaker at our awards banquet. And I said, one day I'm going to get him to come to the field. And he's come several times, and now he hits me up and says, "Hey, Swan, when you gonna have me come back?"
I wanted to make a point of reference to my mother and my aunt knew Dr. Jawanza Kunjufu back in the early, probably 70s, late 60s. So I thought that was interesting because when he came here, my mother made me mention her name, and he said, "Oh my God, I know your mother, I know your auntie." So they were all, young revolutionaries and doing their thing. And so my aunt, Imani Kazana, and I believe she wrote some papers at UMass, and I'd have to dig them up, but they were like, 60s and 70s. There was a group of them, with Benjamin Chavis, with the Wilmington 10 and all of that. They were all a part of that group. And so I have a little history with that.
Gotcha. We had Liz Walker. She was a television journalist in the Boston area, but also an AME pastor, in the area. And she came during our early days. Now, this young brother, and what I started to do the next year, I said, I'm going to bring, in the 4 weeks that I was having it during the month of February, I said, I will bring some big name people, but I also bring some folks who people may not have heard of, but I thought had a lot to offer.
Right.
And Domingo Guyton, he was actually referred to me by my sons, who had him as a lecturer at their college. And I said, well, let me get him. And this brother, man, I've had him more than once. He was so dynamic that first year he came in 2012. He was breaking down the N-word. And a lot of these lectures are on video. You'd have to go to our church's YouTube page and check them out. But he really broke that down. And this brother is also, he's a rapper, a movie producer, an entrepreneur. And we still connect even to this day. But he was great. Of course, a lot of you know Dr. Steve Perry, educator, um, the the founder of the Capital Prep School in the Hartford area, and he's opened up a number of schools in various parts of the nation. He was actually my son's principal. And then he worked with my brother Jonathan as well. And he's been to us more than one time. Of course, this guy packs he packs the house out whenever he comes. He's come to us about 3 times. Tim Wise, and he and I still stay connected to this day. An anti-racism essayist and author, just a lot he has to say and great things. And he readily admits that, he says, I'm not saying anything that other black people haven't already said. He said, but I know a lot of white folks will hear from me what they won't hear from black people. And I never forget the first year I brought him, Springfield College actually tried to get me to move the location. They offered to host it on their campus. And I know they wanted to host it on their campus because they wanted their students and their faculty to be there, and they would rather have it on the safety of their campus, even though they're right down the street from our church, rather than come to the little black church in the hood. And I said, no, if they want to see Tim Wise, come on down to Spring of Hope, because that's where it's going to be. And over the years, I've had several institutions who wanted to, for lack of a better term, kind of co-opt the lecture series by bringing it to a different location that was more palatable to them. Because rather than come at night to a black church in the hood on 6 corners, they'd rather have it somewhere else. But I said that defeats the purpose. I'm bringing this to the community for the community, and so we kept it there. And Tim packed the house. Dr. Whitney Battle Baptiste has been several times. She is an associate professor at the University of Massachusetts. She's also the director of the W.E.B. Du Bois Center there. And she's been to us several times, as well as she's been to the NAACP. Just a wonderful lady, and one of those unsung heroes in our community. I mean, she's right here in Massachusetts, and I encourage people, to use her as a resource. It was really Daryl Moss who referred her to me, and we've developed a friendship. Her and her husband Trevor. And of course, you all will recognize the one and only Sister Soldier. She called herself a raptivist. And she was the only female member of the group Public Enemy. Of course, she had her own solo project. And this is just a bad sister all the way. I mean, she transcended out of the entertainment business into a best-selling author of several novels, and she's just such a down-to-earth sister. We stay connected even to this day. She'll hit me up and just tell me what project she's working on and what she's doing, what she's up to. And so it was such a wonderful experience having Sister Soldier in the house. She packed the house out. A lot of young ladies who didn't really know her from her Public Enemy days, but her from her days as an author. The Coldest Winter Ever and several other books, and they came, just for that reason. The one thing I'm proud to be able to say is we brought a lot of sisters. A lot of times people complain about, well, black women aren't represented, and they aren't, equally in many venues. But I've purposely attempted to bring sisters so that they would be represented throughout the course of these series. Coquise Powell, a fierce battler of breast cancer, health educator, came to us in 2013. She's still out there fighting the good fight against breast cancer. Of course, Dr. Kaju, who we already talked about, Tim Wise, Kimba Smith-Brady. You remember her? I think you did a separate interview with her while she was.
Yes, I did. It was really enlightening to hear her story. To know that women that, I mean, she was a college student. On the right track. Excellent student. From a great family, and just got caught up with a gentleman that you really, I think,
brother. With the wrong brother.
With the wrong brother that, and it happens, to the best of us.
Yeah. And she got caught out there with a brother who was selling drugs, and she got caught out there in that mandatory minimum sentencing stuff. And I mean, just the story. I mean, had her baby in jail.
Yes.
Just crazy. And but President Bill Clinton commuted her sentence, and she's been fighting for prison reform, and all of that. For a long time. And so, we're thankful that she's been to us several times. She's also been to the NAACP as well.
Right.
Dr. Boyce Watkins.
Oh yes, we see him all over social media.
Yeah, he's all over the place. With all of his various endeavors, he's been to us, and we've stayed connected since that time. Dr. Barbara Williams Skinner, just wonderful lady. We probably talk once a month, and we still work together to this day. Matter of fact, I was with her probably a couple of weeks ago, in a meeting with Vice President Kamala Harris, who was updating faith leaders on the nomination of Ketanji Brown Jackson. So Dr. William Skinner stays connected with Washington and brings us in on a number of endeavors. What can I say about the Black Eagle? Joe Madison, you catch him on Sirius XM every morning. My wife loves Joe Madison, and he's been to us twice. He's a former NAACP president, state president, Detroit president, and he's just relentless in his fight for justice. And this kind of gives you you've got Washington insiders, who Dr. Skinner used to be the Conference of National Black Churches, a member of that. She also used to be the Congressional Black Caucus executive director. Boyce Watkins, who's an entrepreneur, an educator, Sister Soldier, who was a former entertainer, and then you got Moni Love. I mean, how can y'all forget Money in the Middle, Queen Latifah's partner, but she had a great lecture, and we were thankful to have her to be able to be a part of our lecture series. Then we had the Clifton Davis, who's a minister, a singer, a songwriter, actor. Matter of fact, he came to us in the middle of a snowstorm in February. He was on Broadway in New York doing Aladdin, and I hit him up and said, hey, because of this storm, we might need to postpone, yada yada. He said, oh no, me and my wife are coming up on the train. We want to go ahead and we want to have this, and bam, he was there and gave a great lecture. Clifton Davis. Let me bring Tink Love in the Twitter space. Tink Love, you're in the house. Are you there? Try to get some of y'all in here who have been trying to get on in the Twitter space. Tink Love going once. Let me bring Jules Joseph Howard, who's one of my signature followers. Jules, you're in the house, brother. Unmute your microphone.
Are you there? Can you hear me now?
I can hear you.
What's up? You can hear me?
I can hear you.
Swan.
I can hear you.
Hey, Bishop Swan. You can hear me?
Yes, sir.
Something right now. Hey, Bishop Swan. Like I don't work on Sundays because I'm football. But like I wanted to tell them about because I wanted to tell them about Black Jesus on Easter, but I just wanted to look in their face when I mentioned Black Jesus on Easter, and I was like, I don't work Sunday or whatever. I just wanted to look in their face, and I was going to tell them that Jesus was black on Easter.
All right. Yes, sir. Okay. Jesus is definitely black. I appreciate you, brother. Let me see. Let's see. Jonathan in the Twitter space. You can now speak. Unmute your microphone.
Greetings, how you doing, brother?
I'm good. How you feel?
Yeah, pretty good. Just want to get your thoughts on fellow clergyman and myself. I just want to get your thoughts on what we do as clergy members to our Black church as far as speaking on the topics that are relevant to us, like anti-Blackness, reparations, and things like that. I believe that, as clergy members, we can, elevate the topics more in our congregation. I believe that we'll have a better response. But sometimes we do get pushed back. I know you have a bigger platform. I know you do fight along with these topics. But I just want to get your thoughts and strategies on what you think that, just the Black church can do more to push these topics along, because ultimately I think it's going to be us that really push it forward.
Yeah, well, I believe that the church has to be relevant to the times in which we live, and the message has to. The art of preaching is taking an ancient text and an ancient message and making it relevant to contemporary times. And so a liberation theology ought to be the aim of every single Black church, because, that's encapsulated in Scripture. The Scripture is about the story of a people that were oppressed, that were brutalized and dehumanized and enslaved and mistreated, and about a God who delivered them. The story of Jesus is about, a man who came and was born into colonization. Israel had been colonized by a white supremacist nation, by Rome. And he came to set the captives free. And so I don't see how we preach and teach the gospel and not have a liberation theology unless we're subscribing to a whitenized Christianity that was fed to our ancestors to try to make us better tools of service. So I think people have to push. The power is in the pews, and if the people in the pews don't push the pastor and those in leadership to push a message that is empowering to their people, then it won't happen. And if you're in a place where it's not happening, I'd encourage you to find a place where you can be empowered. But I appreciate that from you, Brother Reverend. Let me bring Eric Rodriguez here. Eric, you're in the Twitter space. Unmute your microphone. Come through, Eric.
Hey, yo, from Japan, man.
Where are you from?
I was born in Spain, actually, but I've been living in Japan for like half of my life.
Gotcha.
First of all, look, God bless you all of you, bros. I'm not sure if I'm really white or black. because I got this guy who told me like you like white, but you are not white. So I guess so. I'm kind of in between. But I've been listening to what you have said like for like the last 5 minutes. I'm not an American.
Okay.
I'm not an American. I was born in Spain. I've been living in Japan for 22 years, and I've been discriminated in Japan for basically 25 years. But what I want to say is that God bless you all. Because that's the first thing. God bless us all.
All right. God bless everybody. All right. We've been talking anti-blackness. We've been talking Lift Every Voice lecture series. First Lady wasn't able to join us on Justice and Flow, but wanted us to highlight the lecture series and talk about it. And we've been discussing that with one of our organizers. We've been going through this list of speakers that we've had, so many through the years. Debbie Irving, who's the author, classroom teacher, and you've got to get her books. We've had Tamika Mallory, activist. We just had so many. Marino Cordoba was called the Martin Luther King of Colombia. His life had been threatened so many times because of his efforts in pushing for justice against anti-blacks in Colombia. I told you all earlier that the same time Joe Biden was announcing that he was going to be allocating $14 billion to resettle 100,000 Eastern Europeans from Ukraine to the United States. They were announcing efforts to deport Colombians. Marina Cordoba, the Martin Luther King of Colombia. Yes, Karen Hunter. We've had her. There's so many. I haven't even touched on all of them just yet. I wish I had, and this needs to be updated on our website. This only goes to a certain number of years. Nicole Franklin, and publisher and writer, has been with us. Amadou Baraka, a human rights activist. He was also the vice presidential candidate on the Green Party ticket before. Najed Fatah, who's also a filmmaker. Karen Hunter, check her out on Sirius XM. She's there, and many more that have been part of. As you see, this only went up to 2019. We have 3 more years of persons that have come to us. So we've had such a host of people and local artists and dancers and singers and so on and so forth, and we're continuing that tradition. On tomorrow evening, register right now. Y'all see it up on the screen. FocusSpringfield.com, LEV 2022. FocusSpringfield.com, LEV 2022. You see it right there. Register right now, okay? Right now. Go and register right now and be here on tomorrow. Eaton Thomas, NBA basketball star, author, activist, all of that stuff. And you gotta check out his new book, okay? You gotta check out his new book. I'm telling you, man. I'm telling you, the book is fire. Fire. He played for the Washington Wizards, etc. And he's going to be with us.
Hi, Gail. I need to. Hi.
You got to go. Let me get you on mute there. Okay, there you go. He's going to be with us. Vanessa Ford, the golden voice of Springfield, is going to be singing. Crystal Center Brown, spoken word artist, is going to be with us. Youthful Expressions is going to be rendering dance, and we'll have a salute in lieu of our award presentation, a salute to some of those that we have lost over the past year, some giants in our community that we have lost that are worthy to be celebrated. And that's all happening at 7 p.m. tomorrow. Freddie Haynes, somebody mentioned Freddie Haynes. Yes, dynamic brother. Just a whole lot. So many. Oh, that's my wifey on there. She's chiming in the conversation on in the chat. She wasn't able to be here live with us because she's taking care of business with our baby boy. So many. So you want to register right now. Go register right now so you can get the Zoom link and you can be in the Zoom. You can be part of that experience. It's going to be a back and forth between Eaton Thomas and I, talking about the contents of his book. And I know my daughter called me up, my daughter Whitney, when she got her book delivered. So she already bought the book and she's already up on it. Y'all need to get it. Police Brutality and White Supremacy. Let me see. Let me find it really quick on Amazon. Because y'all really need to get it. And y'all just need to support. Y'all just need to support folks. You feel me? You need to support. Let me pull it up real quick. Pull it up. There it is. All right. Police Brutality and White Supremacy, the fight against American traditions. It just came out 3 months ago, January 2022. And I mean, man, y'all, I'm telling you. He interviewed Isaiah Thomas, Craig Hodges. He interviewed legendary personality from The Last Poets. He introduced persons from the Central Park Five, Jamel Hill, Jake Tapper, Stephen Jackson. I mean, so many people. I'm telling you, man, the people in this book that he interviewed, man, he interviewed the sisters of the movement, the mothers that lost people, myself, Chuck D, so many. And you all need to get a copy of this book, man. I'm telling you, get a copy of the book, Police Brutality and White Supremacy, the fight against American traditions. He's basically saying white supremacy and racism, that's as American as apple pie. Mother Green said her book is on the way. Yes. And so it's going to be a dynamic close to the Lift Every Voice lecture series on tomorrow evening. You all want to be a part of it. I love the way of the cover of the book where he remade that iconic picture of Huey P. Newton with himself sitting in the chair just like that. Love it. The legendary Black Panther. So be a part of it. Click the link. The link is, I believe I put it in the chat as well as it's on the screen, but it's also in the chat, and I think I probably need to pin it there, so you all can definitely let me find it. Up, can't find. I'll find it and pin it later. I'll pin it there to the chat, and you all go there and click it and be done with it. Okay. Um, I want to thank Ayana who had to get off, take care of some business. But appreciate you, my sister. Appreciate you being with us on today, um, and being a part of today's conversation. And I want to thank the entire um, lecture series team. I want to thank each and every one of you all who have assisted us in making this year's lecture series a reality. Appreciate you so very much. My daughter Erica, and I know I'm going to forget some folks, but Selena, Leslie, Waleska, Ayana, just every one of you, and of course my wife, who supports everything that I do. So I want to definitely shout out First Lady. She takes my projects as if they were her own, and she puts her her spin on it, or she puts her soul into it. She beautifies it, um, um, and it becomes ours. And so, I would not have been able to do this over the last 12 years, notwithstanding I'm out raising the money and doing all of that, but the support that she gives is invaluable. So I want to thank her for all her help in the lecture series, in what I do at the church, in what I do through the NAACP, and through all of the different hats that I wear as bishop, as everything. So she deserves as much credit as I do, as anyone else does, for these efforts. So register and become a part of history in terms of what is happening with the Lift Every Voice lecture series on tomorrow. I gotta go. I'm 5 minutes past the time I should have been off the air. I'm going on and on to the break of dawn. Let me get the theme music back up and popping. My son, the theme music for the spoken word, I did that years ago, 20 years ago. And we've been riding with that since me and my sister first started that. But the theme music for Justice and Flow is music that was made by my son, Micah, who's with my wife now at his doctor's appointment. So I want to give him credit for that. And so we're out on his theme music. Register for the Lift Every Voice lecture series. Become a part of it right now. Do it before you get off of this live. And of course, until the next time I talk to you, and you talk to me, and you talk to us on Justice and Flow, always remember, God loves you, and so do we. I'm out. Deuces.
Thank you.